There's an important view coming your way. EACPM member Ashima Goyal was in conversation with ET Now's Maisli Busnurmat on what is India's true growth potential as we look at matching up with peers across the world and keep up with our own historical momentum.
I think policymakers tend to be afraid of what has happened in the past. You had a high inflation episode. So as soon as a little rise in food prices, you think that it might lead to second round effects. But I think this happens only if food prices cross the threshold and are sustained. And we will probably not see that in the future.
So can we say 8% is about India's potential?
8 to 9%.
8 to 9%, but we're nowhere near there. And what we've seen generally is that there's a sharp difference in how India performs and how Bharat performs. So given that you have a mutual fund industry which is slowly spreading throughout the country, what is the future really of Bharat vis-a-vis India? Will the good monsoon prediction that we've got just yesterday, will that change? Because, even though we've talked about the rural economy doing well, the fact is that farm incomes really have not increased dramatically. And the MSP increase, as you said, the farmer's problem is that both in good times and in bad times, farmer suffers. So what can a mutual fund industry, I'm trying to kind of pitch this economy vis-a-vis the mutual fund industry. So what can the mutual fund industry hope to get from the latest monsoon prediction that we've got and the future that you hold out for the Indian economy? Where should they look? Should they look at India? Should they look at Bharat?
Well, I think that more and more Bharat is getting integrated into India. We no longer need to think in those dualistic terms, but that is what development is about, actually. And I think we are under-measuring the changes that are happening in Bharat. We are going on telling old stories, not only about labor-intensive employment and manufacturing, but also that farm income and that poor farmer. It's not farm income, it's rural incomes. And rural incomes are diversified now. It's not just from farms. It's also rural businesses in processing food, cold storages, and in diversifying into all kinds of high-valued crops where you have a lot of supply chains that are supporting you so that you don't run into those cobweb cycles.
You also spoke of the savings rate, household savings moving out of physical into financial. The fact is that the Indian household is also a very smart household. They moved out of physical into financial because of the kind of upheavals that we saw. What is the guarantee that they will stick with financial savings if there is a turmoil in the industry and we see that the financial sector does not give them the kind of returns that they were aspiring for? Because remember, we're talking about a society where there is virtually no social security. So if your financial savings don't give you the kind of returns that you had got used to or aspiring for, then they would go back to physical savings. So what can we do to ensure that the financial savings give you the kind of returns that they were looking forward to?
I think it has to do with, again, diversification and building a more robust sort of sector where you don't have that volatility. And households don't expect 18% returns and then, 5%, but more steady and sustained. So you have a diversified portfolio. And so you go into mutual funds as well as bank, as well as some real estate, but not all real estate. And I think that households have really been on a learning trajectory because in the early 90s, they just left equity. They migrated to...
there was a reason why they left equity.
Just fell.
So that really is the worry, even now, if I could interrupt. The fact is households got their fingers burnt once and they returned after a great interval of time. Now, once again, they've been on a good winning trajectory. Will they again burn their fingers? And if that happens, will the return be much slower? Because at the end of the day, an average typical Indian household, I'm not talking about the HNIs. The HNIs can afford to take risks, but the average Indian household cannot afford to take risks. So what he wants is really stable returns. So will it be a case where, again, bank deposits, which they turned away from, will again become the area where they go to?
But bank deposits are not going to give you the kind of returns that they used to give in the past.
No, not returns, but there is safety.
Safety, yes, but again, people are worried about what is happening in banks today. So maybe
are people
diversification?
That's a question I want to ask Ashima. Everybody says people are worried about banks, the future of banks. Have we seen a run on PNB? Has anybody withdrawn his deposit from PNB? Anybody who was depositing with PNB, has anybody withdrawn his deposits? So this really is the magic of government-owned banks, which people do not realize. You have as much faith in a government-owned bank as you have in the government of India. And if we don't have faith in government of India, then what are we doing sitting here? Maybe we should try to migrate.